Hey, this is Brian.
And Shelby.
And you're listening to the Hyperspace
PodBlast. Aren't you a little short for a podcast?
Huh?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hyperspace PodBlast 1 year Podiversary episode.
You know what's so funny is that we didn't do the weird voices at the beginning.
Did we not?
No.
When did we start doing that?
I don't know. I think you were just in a mood.
Imagine that.
Really? Right? You just decided one time. I need to find out which episode you started doing the voices.
I'm surprised you let me do that.
Hey, man. It's half your pod, too.
Half pod.
So it's been a year.
Yeah, technically it's been more than a year because this is going to be episode like 57 or something.
Not really.
Like that.
It's not more than a year. It's
Well,
just
I
that
mean,
we
yeah.
released 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Since
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In theory, we release 1 episode a week. So 53 would have been after a year. But yeah, we recorded the first 5 episodes within a couple days and just released them as one big jumble.
And they were a jumble. Don't go back and listen to them. They're not that great. Audio quality was something else.
It was me screaming into the back of a microphone because we weren't smart enough to look at the mic and see that it said front and back on it quite clearly.
Joys of podcasting.
Yeah, it's a microphone that looks like it would pick up from all angles. Like it's got a screen all the way around it. It's not obviously a front or back, but it literally says front and back right on it. But we never looked. So that's why you can hear Shelby really well in the early episodes. But I sound like I'm like relegated to a corner speaking directly into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Maybe someday we will
Growing
re-record those
pains.
topics so that you can actually hear Brian's thoughts on them.
as if anyone cares.
Well, our answers have probably changed.
That's true. There's a lot more Star Wars now.
Lot more.
And just FYI, if you haven't discovered already, I am still sick. Yay.
Boo.
That's fun. So yeah, supreme sorry to Roku Depot because I really was going to try to do a Hondo voice, but I can barely do my own voice. So
Next time.
yeah, I figure Hondo would just come out sounding like Brian sick, and that's not good. So I do apologize. My friends. Yeah, exaci. For that boy, I would do anything.
That's really, no.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just don't.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't even trying, honestly. It was just...
I wasn't even trying, okay?
I wasn't. Stop making fun of me.
But it's also this will be our last episode before we get married, too. So our podcast
True.
anniversary and our space married anniversary will be the same week.
Yeah, we definitely did it that way so it would be
On
easier
purpose.
to remember both.
Yeah.
We did it.
So we'll be celebrating a year podcasting together. Well, 2 years podcasting together and a year being married next year. That's cool.
Exciting. There's probably a card for that.
There's more commitment to doing
Hallmark.
a podcast together than getting married, maybe. It is a lot of commitment and a lot of work.
It really is, and it's all like for funsies, you know?
Exactly. Like you have to be passionate about it. It is a lot like a marriage. You get married to your podcast.
True. And we
It's
don't
a lot of give and take.
Yeah. It's
lot of
all give.
compromise.
There's no take. You don't take anything. I guess you take like listener feedback that we're going to go over here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's what you take from it. We're not into like the Patreon or anything. Maybe eventually we'll sell some t-shirts or something.
But really the biggest reward for me podcasting, I guess we can just kind of start with this, is
yeah, jump into it.
when people truly interact with what we've said on the pod.
Right.
And not to like downplay like a retweet or a like or something like that, but when someone has a conversation with me on Twitter, or even like if you're not into saying something publicly, or a DM, you know, that having that conversation about what we talked about on the pod and expanding upon it, that's the reward. And, you know, I know we mentioned Roku Depot before. Seeing that like excellent on audio quality and editing is like my badge of honor that I wear every
That's
week.
true.
And it's like, I stayed up late editing on
She
Sunday
has it
night for
tattooed
this.
on her arm.
And I have like a little tick mark for each time we get one of those.
I want to say it's not true, but it really is.
No, it's not.
I know it's not. Jeez.
But what do you think is the most rewarding stuff?
Yeah, it's just the fact that anyone actually listens to it.
I'm shocked every week. I mean,
I just thought we were going to be yelling into the void.
which would have been still fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I did basically with my blog. This whole thing, well, I don't know this whole thing, but my whole venture into doing Star Wars stuff started with a blog that, I don't know, maybe 13 people read in the course of a year and a half. And I didn't care. I was I just wanted to
It forced you to write more.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to somehow put my Star Wars thoughts down and put them out there. It was for me. It's it's a no effects type situation here. Doing it for me, not you. So and it just grew from there. I was like, why do I want to write words when I can just say them
much
and
easier.
Record it
And have Shelby do all the work and edit it.
Exactly. Low key, exactly. Though to be honest, that wasn't my first plan.
What was your first plan?
You were gonna do your own
Oh yeah, that's true. I had. Oh my gosh.
Running and I'm so cool.
No, I was. It's true. I
podcast.
started a podcast. It never actually even started, but I started doing a podcast that really didn't have a lot of direction, and it was really hard to get off the ground myself.
Mm-hmm.
But doing it as a team together, us deciding, hey, yeah, we both are interested in podcasting. What do we want to do it about? And so Star Wars was the thing. And it's also been, while interaction with other people is super rewarding, it's very rewarding to do something and produce something with you.
Yeah, it's nice to have a
joint hobby.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange hobby, but it's really cool. It's something I still look forward to doing, even though sometimes our episodes come out on Mondays and it's Sunday afternoon. We're like, what are we going to do this stupid show on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's one of those labor of love things.
Yeah, for sure. Even though sometimes
I never actually resent it.
No, not at all.
If I did, we wouldn't do this.
Exactly. Yeah. The first moment I feel like I don't want to do this, I'm just not going to, because it's not an actual job. Nothing happens if we stop doing it. So again, it's for us, not you suckers. No, just kidding. I'm being mean.
So let's
to our
get
listeners.
into. Yes, we love you guys.
For sure. Yeah. And just a big thank you for anyone who has ever listened, even if you stop. Sorry. Tell anyone that you know that quit listening. We thank them. Thanks to all the people that have left reviews on the multiple platforms. Again, to Roku Depot, thank you for listening and reviewing. Thanks to Franklin, who interacts with us a lot after listening. Most of the people that we're going to talk about here, all the people we've had on the show.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, so many cool guests. Just, yeah, thanks everybody for everything.
Thank you, Andrew, for kind of boosting our signal in the beginning.
Yeah, true.
And helping us find Phil and Soph.
Yeah, thanks for Brightree for being the best buddies. Best podcast buddies.
Yep, basically the Brian and Shelby of England.
Yeah, the Dorset version. Where they love their tea stewed.
That's just stop.
Stewed.
All right, you're done.
Okay.
So let's go to some listener feedback and questions.
Yes, let's do that. So, starting with Ryan Bullock at Razakairen, who is just everywhere in Star Wars Twitter, it seems like. He's the man about town, if you will. So he gave us 3 questions. I'm going to read the first one. What have you learned from your first year of podcasting? I think we kind of went over this already, but just the fact that it's like, it seems easier than it is.
But it also isn't that hard.
True, yeah. I mean, it's not like terrible.
It's easy to start. It's hard to get good.
And to maintain.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is you can kind of do as much or as little as you want. Like, we use Audible to record, which is a free program. We do have 2 mics and we have headsets and we have all this foam to make it not vibrate off the walls and stuff. But I mean, you could use a gaming headset and a laptop or a computer, or you could use your phone. There's so many inexpensive ways to do this. If you're like sitting there right now thinking, these guys are terrible, why don't I do this? Do it, man. Do it.
Yeah, you can build from the bottom up. And I personally, if anyone ever asks me like, how do you start a podcast? You just start.
Yeah, just do it.
And a lot of podcasts are just not that great as far as quality at the beginning, and that's okay.
Yeah, you
I think
learn
that's
trial by error.
That's one thing. If someone asked me like, what do you wish people who don't podcast knew? That like you learn so much so fast whenever you start recording and editing and figuring out how audio stuff works. I mean, I'm still learning. I know I'm not like some guru or anything, but it's just like you kind of start getting into a groove. Like the amount of time that it takes us to put together a topic, record, and edit, it has just shrunk so much since the beginning.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think we way overthought things at the beginning,
Oh,
too.
yeah, definitely.
So that's definitely something you learn. But yeah, just be like Nike. Just do it. If you want to do it, do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Next question.
Favorite episode you have recorded?
Start us off, Brian.
I think I'm going to have to say the Star Wars feeling episode we did with Jim, because he gives me all kinds of Star Wars feelings.
Oh my god, you're so weird.
But no, I think that's a thing that is so independent yet universal. So it was really interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I think it would be a tie between what does it mean to be a Jedi and what does it mean to be a Sith.
You can't pick one. You must be a gray Jedi.
Oh my god. But mostly because I felt like even though those are 2 episodes, it kind of feels like one topic.
Yeah, it's a grander, like, it's almost like a part 1, part 2 type situation.
Mm-hmm. But I like those, the way that we explored what defines those ancient orders.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also, I need to go back and listen to those now that we've added so much with
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The Last Jedi and the
Force
end of
portals.
Rebels and yeah, all that stuff. Hey.
We're going to talk about Rebels and the Last Jedi bonus stuff eventually, just FYI.
Yeah.
But not now. We're going to move on to the next question, which is the best thing about becoming an active part of the Star Wars fandom.
I think I'll just go again with having conversations about how people interact with media differently. I think that's my favorite part, is seeing how I can look at a scene and get this, and someone else can look at the same scene and get that.
Mm-hmm. And then you guys can argue about it ad nauseum and decide who's right and who's wrong.
See, exactly, because that's what Star Wars is about, is who is right and who guessed it right and who is the best fan.
Yeah, I know. This is a loaded question, because it's like, what is being an active part of fandom? Like, if you watch a Star Wars movie, aren't you an active part of fandom?
Right.
But
yeah.
I mean, I know what he means, and I don't know. I'm going to say meeting Phil and Soph, because as we already said, they are the British versions of us, and meeting your doppelganger is awesome.
It is. It's very cool.
Ta-da!
What else we got?
So, Dave Gomez at David M. Gomez 91. Yeah, boy. He doesn't really have a question. He just said, happy anniversary to my favorite Star Wars themed couple hosted podcast.
Aww.
Which is not specific at all and sounds really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That's dope.
Now we have a question from Philip Lawrence 6, and I'm Phil.
And no, I'm Phil.
If you could change one part of Star Wars, what would it be, and how would you change it?
Oh, another loaded question. There's so many things that come to mind, honestly. And then it makes me think, geez, do you even like Star Wars? You want to change so much of it. Why don't you even like it at all? I think it's just because there's just so much Star Wars.
There's
That's
so
why.
much that, I mean, if there's that much of something, of course there's going to be things that you don't like.
Right, absolutely. That's...
If you liked every single bit of Star Wars, I'd be like,
Yeah, right? It's like, okay, fanboy, calm down.
Well, I mean, there has to be... Wow. There has to be something with the sheer volume.
Yeah, I agree.
If you say there's not a single word said in Star Wars that you're not like, that could have been better.
Yeah,
or,
you are just not discerning whatsoever. That's all.
Yeah, because I think from either a dialogue perspective or even just a visual, how they shot something perspective, you could find something that you would change. I think it's a very valuable skill to be able to look at stuff and appreciate everything, but also be able to say that things could be improved is valuable as well.
Absolutely. So for my actual answer, I would say the last page of the Screaming Citadel comic would have just read, haha, just kidding.
I didn't realize that your hatred for Screaming Citadel would come out on top. But then I'm also like, why did I not think that would be it?
It was hard. It was honestly, okay, if you want to be honest, I do have a large list of Star Wars gripes, but I think Screaming Citadel is the top, followed by Heir to the Jedi, which is better for building a fire than reading.
Oh my god.
And then the whole idea that Anakin built C-3PO. I hate that. So if we're going to go with a movie thing, that would be my thing. So
okay, so I should pick a movie thing and
no,
then
pick
not?
whatever you want. You can pick that Thrawn got beat by space whales if you want.
I'm not going to pick that. Because, as I've said before, I think that's the only way that Thrawn could be beat.
It's true.
Something that unexpected. I would change Zero's voice.
Oh,
in
yep, that would be on my list.
The Clone Wars movie. I hate his voice. I feel like they could have done something. I think I would have liked him as a character if they had done something different, more like a mobster style. I don't know, like a
Or, you know,
like
more like a hut.
yeah, more like
I mean,
a
I
hut, but also
suppose
more like an
human
actual like
voices
Godfather kind
change.
of.
Yeah, they did that with later in the Clone Wars. You kind of got turned off because of me.
You.
And listen, you didn't like the movie. Don't act like I tainted you to that.
Well,
first, but-
I was kind of about it overall, and then it was really late, and we started the Clone Wars, and I'm like, I'm going to bed, and then I never revisited, except for like Mortis and a couple other arcs, but...
I think, honestly, that's kind of the way to watch it. Just pick and choose little arcs. You don't really have to necessarily do it chronologically. It didn't even come out chronologically, so...
True. But that's what I would change. I would change his voice to something, and I'd probably put it in Huttese.
Yeah, I would rather he be subtitled and not be purple. But anyway, Phil's next question is, out of the Bright Tree Radio host, who is your favorite, Phil or Soph? Obviously, Phil.
It's obviously Soph.
You're ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
So moving on, Soph herself, SH Lawrence 12. If you could create your own Destiny card, what would it be and what would it do? And then she goes on to say that hers would be a handmaiden, attach it to Padme, and if she's about to be defeated, the handmaiden takes the damage for her.
Which
That
I
would be
love.
pretty cool, yeah. And I actually responded on Twitter that she's going to like our next episode, which would have been our 2 episodes ago episode. So if you want to know what our answer is to that and you don't already know, go listen to our Star Wars Destiny Strikes Back episode and you will know.
Yeah. So unmistakably Star Wars, thank you so much for the nice words on congrats on the milestone. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks to them for doing a Star Wars on tap on the both of us independently, helping get our Star Wars brand out there.
Yee.
And thanks for being good, Joe. So moving on, D. Hackerson, Dave, at Norsk Akaruno, that I probably just butchered horribly, says, congrats, keep the positivity coming, and we will, except for all the negative things we've said in the last couple of episodes.
We actually hate Star Wars.
Psych, you guys listened for a year, dummies. Just kidding. So anyway, he says, here's my question. Imagine Disney turns to Studio Ghibli to make a Ghibli-style animated feature. What kind of Star Wars story would you like to see them explore? And this is a top-notch question.
I agree.
So if you don't know what Studio Ghibli is, it's Ghibli. Look it up. You'll probably be like, oh. Even if you've never seen any of their movies, I guarantee you've probably at least seen some of their iconic figures. So that said, what about you, Shelboo?
There's so many, but I like the idea of a young Leia being in this style on Alderaan and kind of finding her place and wanting to be a part of her father's work.
That's pretty interesting. I think they're actually doing a manga version of Leia, Princess of Alderaan, like they're doing Lost Stars right now. I think I'm saying that correctly. Maybe I dreamed that. I don't know. If that's not true, I'm sorry. But I'm pretty sure that I read that. But yeah, I think that would translate really well. And I think if they're doing that, that's going to be really cool. I'm super stoked to get into that manga because I think that story is going to translate really well. But for me, I would do my Rancor and me.
Oh.
The story of the Rancor monster and the Rancor trainer.
Oh, and he like tames him and oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna make me cry.
I know. That needs to happen because more Rancors need to happen.
Yes. Oh, I'd love that.
Find out more at morerancors.com.
That's not real.
That's not, yeah, don't do that.
Our next one
It's
comes
probably
from
porn.
Oh my god. It comes from Mike Moriarty at The Fanboy Awaits. Something I ask everyone. What inspired you to start your show? Also, major congrats on the Podiversary. Your show is awesome and I never miss an episode. The Force is with you. Hashtag Vong for life.
Vong for life. You can't see me, but I'm doing the hashtag sign with 2 fingers of each hand.
Well, we kind of talked about it, what inspired us. We wanted to do something together, and we wanted to podcast together. So, I don't know, I think you probably came up with the idea more than I did.
Yeah, it's just something that grew, like I said, from the blog, and then I started writing for other places, started doing comic reviews, and it just became more and more. It's kind of like one of those things you get involved in, and you're like, what more can I do? Where else can I take this?
Yeah.
And this is where it landed.
And thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. You should definitely check out their show, Home One Hangout. Good stuff.
Yes.
So now we have a couple DM questions. So I don't know if these people wanted to be, I don't know.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep them
or-
anonymous.
Yeah, just in case. If you want to be like, yo, that was me, I said that, go for it. So That's all you. This first one is, if you could green light a Star Wars movie, what would it be? And they go on to say, for example, I want a Clone Wars movie that only focuses on the liberation of one planet and the battle for it, where we also get a new Jedi, Padawan, and a new clone battalion, but it only takes place during the fight for control of that specific planet.
That is very well thought out.
Yeah.
See,
probably
I would want, I think what I most would want is something that I think a lot of people would hate, but I don't care. I want like a Order 66 body cam perspective from a clone trooper.
So you want basically like Hardcore Henry or whatever that movie was called, as if it was a clone trooper.
Or, I think it would be interesting to see that from just any stormtrooper in any era.
It would be, I think, like a day in the life type of situation would be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very,
I'm not a big fan of that whole
Cloverfield-esque kind of
Yeah, I
stuff.
was going to say, I'm not a big fan of that type of cinematography.
I like it, but
because it sometimes, like with Blair Witch Project, for example, I didn't get scared during that movie, but I did almost puke because I felt like I was like, ugh.
Yeah, but that's what I would greenlight. What about you, Brian?
I would definitely greenlight a DJ movie, all about how he gallivants around the galaxy doing whatever he wants, to whomever he wants, for whatever reason he wants, because he is the best character in Star Wars.
All right.
Second to that, I would make an Imbo movie about
I want Wild Space.
about
second.
how he gets his pet as a puppy and then raises it, and then they kill people.
You realize what happens when you have a dog in a movie.
Nah, he's fine. We already know. We already know what happens.
Okay.
He lives long and a great life.
So last question. Going forward, do you feel Star Wars should be a platform to discuss social issues such as homosexuality, economic equality, and gender equality, or should it be just a fantasy story intended just for fun? I mean, immediately I read that and I'm like, well, can it be both?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you mean about a platform to discuss social issues. I think it should endeavor to be inclusive at all ends of the spectrum, like in characters, in people behind the scenes, in writers, directors, etc. But I mean, I don't know about a platform. Like, depends. Like, I don't think Star Wars should be like social propaganda necessarily.
I get what you're saying there. I mean, I don't know. I would say that anything this large inherently becomes a platform because it reaches
Right.
so many people.
Yeah.
And I get that. So I think that Star Wars needs to understand that and use it responsibly and use it for the greater good, which is to further these issues in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it needs to understand the influence it has and the significance of including everyone in something as large as Star Wars.
Absolutely. And like I said, from both ends of the spectrum, like, sure, we've had female leading ladies, but then you look in the background and it's still a very male dominated space. We've had different sexualities represented if you dig deep enough to find out, but if you're just watching the movie, you never know. Things like that could definitely be brought to the foreground.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
It's so funny when people are like, oh my gosh, how many Star Wars movies we're having to have like female leads in a row? And it's like,
Yeah, but it's not a problem. Like, everyone has a dude. Like, no one's going to complain about that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'd say we hope to see inclusivity of everyone, again, in front and behind the lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Wars reaches so many people. It would be fantastic if those people could reach back and see themselves in Star Wars, no matter who they are.
Absolutely.
Use a point is well said.
So
Okay,
this is
yeah,
1 year.
After that heavy question.
I feel like we don't structure this very well. Sometimes we
Well, I mean, this one we kind of played off the cuff for
That's
sure.
true. But Hyperspace PodBlast has been such a joy, and I mean, I can see it. Hyperspace PodBlast episode 1372.
Yep, you'd be running solo at that point.
Are
or
we going
I'll
to
be
solo?
like a head in a jar, maybe.
Maybe.
Nice. Nice solo joke.
It's especially having the constraint of the 30 minutes.
Yeah, that was probably the best idea that we had for this whole thing.
It's been great because it forces us to be creative with our time. And
it forces us to be brief when we would otherwise
just kind of go on and on and
tangents on tangents on tangents.
And it also keeps the commitment to something that's manageable.
Absolutely, yeah. That's another big part of it. If it were just like anything goes, who knows? knows if we'd even made it to a year.
That's true. So, I mean, thinking back, I'm very happy we started this podcast, and I can't wait to be doing our 2-year anniversary.
Absolutely. And talking about finally having a celebration to look forward to. Hopefully.
Right?
Come on,
Gosh.
Star Wars.
Anyway, we will
together.
leave it there. Thank you again, everyone who has been listening over this year. We really appreciate you. I guess now's a good time to announce our Triple F is on hiatus.
Yeah, that was a great idea that basically was all Shelby's idea that stemmed from something that Jedi Fish, whose name is something different now, that I came up with and now I can't remember it. Jeffy Porkbach, that's what it is. But yeah, he was like, I want to come on and talk about Star Wars and Bob's Burgers. And we're like,
how are we going to make this work?
How's that going to be a thing? And then, yeah, Shelby made up our Triple F. But it'll be back, but we're coming up with a different Blastcast side project for the next couple months. So there will be no Arch Triple F March, and I don't know, probably in the next 2 months.
Probably, yeah.
And then after that,
it'll get revisited. It's not over, but we like the flexibility that we have with Blastcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, we're going to try our best to keep everything consistent in episodes as we get married and go on our honeymoon. But if that doesn't happen, we're really sorry.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Yes.
Don't fret.
It'll only be for maybe a week or so.
True.
Again, we are so grateful to everyone who has contributed, who has given us ideas, who's conversed with us, and everyone who just listens.
Yeah,
and we never get any sort of interaction with you.
Yeah, all the silent listeners, you are the big winners, because
we're always looking to find you.
If it were only people that we knew about, there would only be like 13 listeners probably for the show. So.
All right. Talk to you later, guys.
Thanks again very much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.